Well, after a brief hiatus at the end of September, we've decided to bring back Hornet Nation Unfiltered here in October. And what better way to start than with a Montgomery native, Alabama State, born and bred is what we'll call him, Brandon Dean. Brandon, nice to have you with us here, especially as we kick off October and get to moving towards football and basketball and baseball all at one time.
What's up, Travis? Thanks for having me today. I appreciate it.
Hey, anytime. And so, folks, those of you that don't know Brandon, you may see, and I say this very jokingly because we laugh and cut up, when you see Brandon at an event, Brandon is so stern looking, serious, like you can't talk to him. But when you go up and talk to Brandon, you will find out a totally different person. And I've known Brandon since he, and this, I'm about to date myself, since you wore the Alabama State uniform. But for me, it's funny when people will say, hey, can you go ask Brandon a question? And I'm just like, go ask him. He's not going to do it. Just go talk. What is it about that personality of Brandon Dean when he's at an event, he's working, compared to the Brandon Dean when he's away from everything and able to cut up? And I know you're thinking about the right answer, so I'm just going to let you have at it now. So go for it.
Well, I'm not a mean guy. I just have a mean look. And that's a family trait, I guess, from my dad, my brother. We just look very upset, but we're not upset. We're just looking that way. I mean, we just carefree, fun-loving people. I mean, I guess it's just our demeanor, I guess, but I apologize.
No, it's one of those. I was gonna wait till the end of this podcast to even bring it up, but it's one of those lighthearted moments that you can go to and start the conversation off. But it also transitions. Let's start back. Let's start where we are now and work our way back. You're now at the Alabama High School Athletic Association, which is a lot of the reason I brought that up, because you work events all the time, and especially at Alabama State. And it's one of those events where if somebody were to walk up, they wouldn't know who you were unless they looked at your badge, because that's just you. You don't go and say, hey, I'm running this event. But what does it mean for you to be in the position you're in now, and a position that you've worked your way to get to with a lot of hard work and grit and doing the little things to get to where you've gotten? Because a lot of people don't know your journey to get to where you're at now.
It means a whole lot, man, to be from Montgomery and to, have my upbringing here and to stay here and give back to Montgomery. Coming from being a PE teacher to an administrator to MPS AD to this job now, it means a whole lot to be able to give back on this platform, and also give props to ASU for bringing me up to the right way, as a college student, so it means a lot to me.
Is it one of those things that you ever thought that this would be a position that you would be in as you started to go in your career? I mean, you go from the PE teacher, your coach, and then you become the athletic director for the entire Montgomery public school system, to now being one of the lead administrators at the Alabama High School Athletic Association, and not to mention your role in the Coaches Association.
It was a goal of mine from the onset to have this position now, and God has been so good to me to give me this role and to have this platform to also, speak about ASU in a positive light. Because when we have events here, I try to also include ASU coaches here in our events too, because we have Coach Bean here, Coach Chapman, and Coach Vasquez coming to our lunch and learn clinics too. So for me to use this platform to also uplift ASU, it's a plus for all of us involved.
Well, I'll say this: you've had a good example to follow as far as ways to get things going, especially here in the city and in the county. And your dad has served a lot of roles, especially at Alabama State and in the county and the county commission. Talk about just being able to see that example that he laid for you as you moved forward and laid that foundation for you to say, hey, all things can be possible.
Well, for me, my dad is one of my best friends, and people may see the stern demeanor on the outside, but on the inside, he's a kind-hearted guy, a real loving individual. They also see the commissioner or whatever, but to me, he's just dad. We never talk politics, we just talk life experiences. And he's one of my best friends walking this earth, and I just thank God for him every day. I mean, he's always been there for me. Talk about from high school to college. He never missed a game. He was always there for me to have my back, and I just love him so much. So.
Well, as somebody that has seen that relationship and seen the way you act and your brother and your dad, I can speak on the kind of person he is. So, I will say this. you and your dad are almost exactly the same. You can go up and shake hands, but at the end of the day, as soon as you shake hands, it becomes very from professional to personal while the handshake's going on, because just the way the conversations switch. And same thing with you. You go up and shake your hand, and it just switches from, it's a very professional handshake to now let's talk about life.
He taught me that. I mean, it's a great example for me as a man and a male figure. So,
well, and I'd be remiss, I know you probably want to talk about it not long, because I don't want to get you. It's still an emotional thing, I'm sure, for you. But just the passing of your mom, just what that meant to your family, and I know that's a loss for you, and I know you probably still think about it to this day.
Well, yeah, that was extremely tough loss for me and my family. Losing a mom, you cannot describe it to anybody else who hasn't experienced that. She was my rock, my go-to person, but her health declined, and she passed away in 2018. And that kind of, that's a life change for you when that happens. And we've tried to adjust the last 2 years, and it's still a battle every day, but we're doing the best we can. But God is still good through all of that. We're doing better now, but always think about her every day. And she was a true ASU fan. She was always decked out in the ASU black and gold, on game days. And she was just the best ever. No matter what she did, she was the best. And I love her death and miss her to this day.
So let's talk about the Donna of the black and gold. Obviously, I know for the people at home that may not know, at the Alabama High School Athletic Association, it's not T-shirts, it's coat and tie, or button-up shirt and coat. But today, for those of you at home that are able to see this, Brandon has gone against the grain of the dress code for the podcast and has got his Alabama State gear on, has all the Alabama State gear behind him. And I asked before, I was like, man, did you decide to decorate before the podcast? This is his office every day. So when you put that shirt on, and it's not just that shirt, when you put those colors on, what does that mean to you?
It means a lot. ASU is my home, and it's always been my home, since I was 18 years old, even before then. But quick story, I remember back in my sophomore year, I was walking through C.J. Down Arena, the old arena, and I saw Coach Scott, Derek Scott, the strength coach, walking that way. And I was wearing some Cincinnati Bearcat shorts that day. And he ripped my tail because of that, because he's told me that ASU is your home, not Cincinnati. And since that day, I understand the importance of repping my school the right way and every day wherever I go. And that's just one of the things I do now wherever I go. I rep ASU no matter what. Well,
and when you talk about repping ASU, there's a lot of people that came along with you that we call the old guard now. And I know you don't, for you, it's probably odd to hear your name mentioned in the old guard. But once you get so many years out, and we'll just call it 5 years out. We won't date you, so we'll just call it 5 years out.
I'm 39. We can date me. That's fine.
See, I was trying to be nice and not date you.
Yeah,
but we'll go ahead and do it. So the old guard was a little different than what we have here. And it's nothing against either one. Here, everybody has on-campus facilities.
Yes.
When you grew up, there's an old saying that you have to stand on the shoulders of the ones that came before you in order to succeed, or you have to stand on the shoulders of those that came before you to understand what they went through, so you have what you have. Talk about just going through that, especially baseball, and we'll go back before you were there. Coach Watkins tells the stories all the time that there's a track meet, then they have a baseball game, and they put a fence out in the track, and he said the ball hits the track and just takes off. Then you move to Bellingraph, to Southern, which are two city-run facilities that are back then were just fields that Alabama State basically took care of so they could play. Then you play at Patterson Field, which at that point was the place to play in Montgomery for everybody. And then you have the facility on campus now. Just talk about just that run of what it meant for guys like you that paid the price to play at all these different places to now be able to see that on campus facility.
Let me just say where we are now is light years ahead of where we were when I played. When I played back in 99 to 03, we had to drive from campus to Bellingraph to practice every day. So that meant getting dressed in your cars, no dressing room, none of that stuff. Coach Watkins had a little white van he drove around every day around campus to get to practice, picking up players, taking them to practice. That guy's a legend because of that. But to have to drive to practice every day, get dressed in your car, and then drive back on campus for a 5:30 class was very, very time-consuming for a kid in college back in those times. And also having to play at Patterson and Peter Crump, for your home games. It was a challenge for us. But these kids now, they have it good, I have to say. They have an on-campus stadium, batting cage on campus right by the field, a locker room to get dressed in, their own quote-unquote locker room and weight room to lift weights in. They're extremely blessed right now. And just to see where we are from where we came from, it's just great to see. I will say that.
When you get a chance, and you do this on a regular basis, when you get a chance to go back and watch these games at these on-campus facilities, you not only do you have state-of-the-art where you get to sit and watch, but you can go out to the deck and watch a game from out on the deck. We just talked about your dad a few minutes ago, but that's a place that he goes. You've got the old guard as far as fans out on that deck. When you go out there on that deck, does it bring back any memories of, man, I wish I was playing, or I wish I could have played here, or, man, this is a great view, kind of one of those things?
It does. But also, for me, I'm going to admit this, to be able to heckle the opposing team is great for me. Just that same environment that we always competed against when I played, that we didn't have that, that advantage when I played at home. But to be a fan now and go heckle somebody else's team, it's a great feeling.
So I will just go ahead and say this. 2 things just happened on this podcast for everybody at home. You just saw Brandon laugh and cut up, and he just admitted that he goes out to heckle the opposing team.
Listen, when I'm not at work, I am a true fan of athletics and sports. I love to compete. I hate to lose. So I'm a true fan outside of work.
You can be that at work. You're still.
Not at work. We're neutral here at work. So, that's the difference.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you put that on the record, because Obviously I don't want Coach Sapp or Coach Briggs or even Coach Stallworth to go back and have to get you on anything.
Exactly.
But speaking of, and we'll transition from that to Coach Watkins. When you talk about the guys that you worked with or formerly worked with, a Tony Stallworth, who's a legend in the high school ranks, an Alvin Briggs, a Steve Savarese, you're able to learn every day on the job anyway as you go. Even Denise Ainsworth, that was one of the best in the state in her position as a softball coach. How is that for you on a daily basis, that you go into those rooms with those individuals and are just able to learn different things to continue to grow? We talked about this is what you wanted to do, but you don't want to just not grow as you continue in your professional career.
For me, it's big because people, once you name Alvin, Coach, Tony, Denise, have so much experience in athletics, and to learn every day from them about what to do and not to do and how to do it. For me, it's big. And going back to Coach Watkins, I will say that Coach Watkins and Larry are 2 different people. Larry is the nicest guy you will ever meet in your life. He's all loving, smiling, hugs. Just a great guy. Now, on the other end, Coach Watkins is a different person. When it comes to practice, game day, he is so tight and uptight that will blow your mind. Also, he's a very, very cheap individual, too, as a coach. I can remember on our playing days when you go to Shoney's or McDonald's, you could not supersize your meal at McDonald's. If you did, you would get some kind of unkind words from Coach Watkins. So he's a totally different person outside of Larry Watkins. And his one-liners that he gave us when I played are pure gold. I can see right now him coming to practice, getting out the truck, just screaming out bunts and leads, bunts and leads, bunts and leads. He's just a totally different person when he became Coach Watkins as opposed to Larry Watkins. And I know he'll probably get me for saying this, but he transforms into a different person and became Coach Watkins.
Oh, don't worry. He'll get you before we air this, because I'm probably going to have to call him and ask him, because he still throws out the one-liners to this day. But I want to hear.
Yeah.
And I had the privilege. I'm not going to say luxury. I had the privilege of watching when you played at State, because I was I was growing up and working for the city, but I got to see that side of Coach Watkins on the field, and now I see him. Or on the field, and now I see him in his current role. So it's easily understood between the two, which one is which. And you don't call him Coach Watkins off, even though you want to. I just say Coach. I don't even finish. But you will never hear me utter the words Larry. It's always going to be Coach Watkins or Coach. You will never hear me call him Larry, because I'm just afraid of which person I'll get when I call him that.
And he would always come to practice with a bag of pork skins. We would always ask him, Coach, can I have some skins? And he would say, violation. I mean, so he always followed the rules to a T. I mean, he never gave anything up. I mean, so he's just a great individual and a very, very stern and uptight coach. I mean, I will say that.
I'm glad you brought up Shoney's, though, because there was on Twitter, and this was months ago, and this may be before the pandemic. It may have been after the pandemic. We were talking, and we put stuff on Twitter. And I got into the conversation, and me and you were having the conversation on there, and about Shoney's came up. And you said, no, you can go to Shoney's with Coach if you want to go. Was Shoney's really that bad with Coach Watkins, or is it just one of those where you could only order a certain thing when you went?
It was both. He had his picks and chooses about everything. It was Shoney's or McDonald's or Golden Corral. You had 3 choices. That's it. You had a limit, $8 limit. That was all you had. That's it, period. He made it known before going in there.
So here's a Coach Watkins question. How was he hitting the fungo?
The best.
Are you saying that just because you know he's going to hear it?
No, he was the very best at it.
I just had to check.
He did it every day. I mean, he was the best at it.
Well, and he knows I'm going to get him on this. When you've been around that campus as long as Coach Watkins has, you should be able to hit a fungo.
Yes.
At any point. I mean,
yes. He
was hitting fungo as a player.
Right.
So, and I know this is a podcast about you, but this is where we get to tell stories.
Oh, that's fine.
Have you seen did Coach Watkins ever let guys on the team see the pictures of him when he was playing, or is it one of those that he tried to keep all that stuff from everybody and the nicknames? Because he was called the Toy Cannon.
Toy Cannon. Yeah, we know that. We saw a couple, but he was always very very private about his personal life. He just always talked about his wife, Lavinia. That was it.
He still does to this day.
I know. I mean,
at 11:45, you are not to ask him to do anything at 11:45 because he has to leave to go take lunch home.
Yeah, I go every to my wife. Yeah, I mean, I can hear him saying, "Nadine, my wife want me to come home." I mean, so I just,
Hey, when we get off the air, I'll give you a couple tidbits how you can get around that, because I have conversations with Miss Watkins, so I can get where you can get. If you need Coach for a couple extra minutes, we get Coach for a couple. Now he's probably going to get me for that because he don't want everybody to know.
Yeah, I know.
But let's go back to your playing days a little bit. So you're 99 to 2003. You're a Montgomery native. What did it mean for you to step, even on the field you've been playing on as a youngster, to go out there but in an Alabama State uniform?
It meant a lot to me to play in my hometown, in my home stadium from high school to Patterson Field. And just, to think back to my playing days at ASU and our teams there. My first year was maybe my best team I've been a part of in my life. To have those guys, those senior guys, we had Jermaine Harrison, Will Silman, Pico Claxton, Andrew Ralph. Just to be around those guys and learn how to play the game of baseball the right way was a blessing to me. And I will say this, that crew, their nicknames are Buckwheat, Mice, Pud, Ronaldo, Mojo from the BI. They gave Coach Watkins pure hell my first year. That is no lie. And it was, looking back now, it's funny, but back then it was a tough task for Coach. But they were good guys. They gave him a hard time. I mean, but those guys were great, great teammates. Then you go to my second year. we were not that good, just to be honest with you. 2001, we had a lot of internal strife on the team and turmoil with my teammates and I. But we got along. But just as far as playing the game, we had some fifth-year guys who were trying to still play and not letting the other guys, do their role. And that was kind of tough for us. Then 2002, my junior year, we had a real good year. We made the SWAC tournament. That's the year I'll tell the story too. We were down in FAMU, playing FAMU in March of 2002. That was a trip from pure, what. My teammate Hector was playing first base. He took a ground ball to the mix section and he had to go to the hospital. Later on that game, myself playing third base, playing behind the bag, which I don't normally do, I took a bad hop into my jaw and it busted my jaw and it had my jaw going back this way on this side. I had my mouth wired. We were stuck in FAMU the whole night waiting on my teammate and myself to get back to Montgomery with me with a mouthful of blood. And to make matters worse, my coach Watkins, my good friend now, found out he was joking on me while I was hurt too, So it just made matters worse, because he was telling the team, hey, listen, Dean has a busted jaw. His mouth already big anyway, so don't joke on him right now. It's real big now. So just that trip there was a trip from that year.
Pretty bad memories? Is that what we're saying on that trip?
Bad memories, yes.
Go to your senior year. So you're going into your final year. Last time, you'll put a uniform on. Last time you'll be playing in your hometown. Just talk about just that moment you realize, hey, this is my senior year. This is it. I'm not going to be playing on any of these fields anymore. I got to just do what I got to do.
Yeah, to think back now, that's been 17 years now. My last game at ASU, and it just flew by. That last year was a tough year for us as a team. A lot of injuries, a lot of guys that stopped playing too, of course. But just that last game at A&M, I remember now the post-game speech because the Vice is talking about, going on to your next phase of life. I was thinking like, man, what do I do now with my life? Because for me, I've always played sports. That was my go-to, to get through school, just playing baseball, playing sports. And to have that come to an end, I was like, man, what do I do now? And for me to then just, go on and graduate and start teaching, that kind of helped me just, transition from playing to my career at that point. But, all in all, my 4 years at ASU playing baseball was the greatest years of my life, hands down. I met some amazing people. And I have best friends now from those teams that I still talk to this day. And I just can't say enough about what ASU means to me and my family over the years and to this day.
As you look at what ASU has become as far as the sports you played in baseball, did you ever think the day you left in 2003 that by 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, that people would be chasing Alabama State atop the SWAC when you grew up and it was the Jackson States, the Alcorn States, and those teams? Did you ever think that it would get to this point?
I never could imagine us being where we are now because of what I went through as a player. But again, when it comes to having the resources to do that, right, it's very possible. To have us go, I think that was 2016 to go undefeated in conference play. I mean, that's amazing. That's an amazing feat because for us, playing the Jackson States, who I can't stand, by the way, the Alcorns, and they were always tough against us. And to go through your whole side undefeated, that's just amazing to do. So.
Talk about just the way it's set up, the way the season it goes. It's changed a little bit since you were there, but the SWAC season takes a toll on you because you have so many games you have to play. Then you're trying to play your non-conference games. So what were some of the toughest non-conference games you played, or even some of the ones you remember just because you could say, hey, I got to play on the same field with these guys?
For me personally, it was UAB. My first year, I think, my freshman year, because I pitched. I may have faced two batters, and that was it because I walked one and gave a bomb up to center field and passing field. So for me, that was, that was it for me as a pitcher at ASU. But for us, when we played, we always played double headers and SWAC play on the weekend. So we would leave on Fridays and play 2 on Saturdays and 2 on Sundays and drive back to Montgomery for a midweek game against Troy or UAB. And for us, we didn't have the pitching depth to compete midweek, with those teams. And now to see us have that depth now to go against the Troys and UABs and South Alabamas, it's great to see. We didn't have that, So when I played, you had me pitching on Tuesdays, and that didn't work out well.
So what you're saying is once the ball hit the kudzu in center at Patterson, you were done.
I was done. That was
how high up the hill did it go, or did it just go over the wall?
It's still going now, Travis.
For those of you that have never been to Patterson Field, let me explain to you how it works in the outfield. So center field is 380 is what the number says. I think it's more 390 to 400. And then you have, what Brandon, probably a 50-foot high hill?
Yes.
Covered in kudzu with a house on top. The rumor is that Bo Jackson hit it. I actually did see a guy from Cal State Northridge hit the top of the hill with a home run. Same team that won the World Series that year in Montgomery. But when Brandon says, I hit it, I gave up a bomb to center and that was it on my pitching career, just imagine visually where that is.
Yes.
But that's just, that's Patterson Field in a nutshell. But Travis Strong, Brandon Nain here on Hornet Nation Unfiltered, and getting a chance just to hear these stories from baseball's past, because not a lot of people want to get on here and actually tell the real story. But I knew we would get it from Brandon because that's just the kind of person he is. And then I knew, when I reached out, it was one of those that, I was kicking myself for not asking earlier. But when you go back and you look, you were at Alabama State, and it wasn't just baseball. Alabama State was good in everything, and they still are good. We still are good in everything. But as a student athlete, what did it mean for you to be able to go watch these teams compete at a high level on the football field in Dunn Oliver Acadome? Softball was just coming around really at its peak. And then just to be, as a student athlete, track and field, soccer getting added. Go back to those days of being on that campus, and then looking at it through that lens, not the lens of of being the graduate.
Well, I'll go back even further in 1992, when I saw, maybe to my knowledge, my opinion, I should say, the best basketball team we had at ASU, and that was Kirby Fortenberry, Ronji Gordon, Jimmy Lunsford, Mike Tyler, and Devin Womack. Those guys, except Devin, were all 6'7" across the board. To see those guys play in that era was, for me, great to see as a young kid at 11 years old, seeing those guys play. So I've been around a long time now. I saw those great teams play. But for me, in my playing days, and I'll say this to ASU football fans, we were blessed to have Darnell Kennedy as our quarterback during those years. To see Red play was amazing during my time. He just was electric. He put up great numbers. To be here during the cold-blooded era, that was a great time, very exciting. And then to see Jermaine Crenshaw, then going to Tavares, rest his soul, then Greg Jenkins Duhart, just to see those guys come along and play for ASU and down our colors was great to see. And I'll say this too, you talk about, Darnell Kennedy and Tavares Jackson. We have been blessed as a school at that position with those guys playing quarterback for us. And I'll just say that. So don't get, spoiled about those two guys. They set the bar high at quarterback for ASU. So.
And we'll come back to that because I want to ask you about that. But let's go back to what you said about the basketball program, about the Kirby Fortenberrys, the Jimmy Lunsfords, the other guys, and you were talking about 6'7" across the board. It's ironic that you mentioned their names because we're actually putting a record book together right now, and those guys are showing up a lot in the record book. But you talk about 6'7", just to set the stage a little bit, since we're a month away from basketball season on the men's side. You're going to see the same thing on the men's side. You're going to see a lot of 6'7", 6'8", 6'9" guys. So you may see the old era start coming back. I'm not going to say you will, but you may see that old era. But now let's get back to the football with the bar setting high with Darnell and T-Jack. Darnell Kennedy's numbers are outrageous. And if you never got a chance to see him play, dig up some old YouTube clips because they're there. You may be hard-pressed to see a lot of it because of the grainy condition the film is in. the kid could play. And I'm going to say the kid because when he was playing, that's what he was.
Yes.
But when you're throwing for 11,000 yards, I don't care who you are. But for Alabama State to get a guy like a Darnell Kennedy here and for you to be able to witness that firsthand, that's also special.
Yes, and to be on the same campus at the same time as Darnell was great for me to see greatness in person, every day on campus. And for him, again, he put up amazing numbers every year he played. And I think he got hurt one year and got a red shirt and came back and built upon that too. I mean, just what can I say? This is an amazing talent. I mean, and I forgot to mention two quarterbacks, Ricky Jones too. So I want to get.
Yeah, that's why I went back to quarterbacks because I wasn't going to let it slide. I was going to let somebody call you.
Yeah.
You didn't. So I'm trying to stay. In good graces again.
I'll say Ricky Jones, and again, going back again to telling my age, that '91 team, having Ricky Jones, downtown Richard Brown, Horace Brooks, even Barlow was a freshman that year, Eddie Robinson, Mike Williams. Just to see that talent on one field, was amazing to see too, going undefeated and winning national championships. So, I mean, hey, we have a real great history no one knows about until they really dig deep into the files and see. But, it's a great school, great tradition. I mean,
don't worry. That history will start coming out. We'll make sure that, and that's been a work in progress. We'll make sure that history comes out. But, you talk about another school and another place that has a long history. That's where you went to high school. Think about all the athletes that have come out of that high school. I mean, and I hate to say this because obviously, I went to a high school on the other side, not far from where you are, but, for us, and I told Barlow this in his podcast, I had to apologize to him because I went to Lee. So I apologize to you because I went to Lee, but
so that's okay.
Usually these conversations for the folks at home, these conversations wouldn't have happened back in the 90s and the early 2000s. If the Lee, JD, Carvin on there, you didn't have those conversations with each other. But just talk about the guys that came from the same high school you came with. I mean, that is, you go back and think about it. I mean, it's
Joe Frazier, Steve Rogers, Reggie Barlow, Tavares Jackson, Kildred Williams. It goes on and on. I mean, just
go back further. Go back further to who won the first Super Bowl.
Bart Starr. I mean, just to have those names associated with our school is great for Montgomery in itself. I mean, just a whole list of great people, great athletes who played for Lanier High School during the years. I think even the twins, Donna and Ronell in basketball. I mean, so it's just great for us in Montgomery to have, even Lee High School having that great talent too. I mean, just to have that talent come through Lee High School and Montgomery itself was great for Montgomery.
I was just going to leave Lee alone. I wasn't going to bring it up because
I'll bring it all up. I mean, I don't mind.
Yeah, I know because again, you're working though, so you have to
be neutral.
I'm telling you, this is the Brandon Dean that you see on a daily basis. For those of you that don't know, this is Brandon in a nutshell. Don't let his look fool you. Don't let his sternness get you. Now, what he's going to do, he's probably going to get me when we get in public. So
I won't. I'm not a mean guy. I'm not a mean guy. Just look mean sometimes.
Before we talk about you, and there's a couple of questions I want to ask you because you've been very active on social media lately when it comes to athletics.
Okay.
But let's talk about Tavares just a little bit before we get into that. Obviously, same high school, different era per se. He got Alabama State just a little bit later than you did because he transferred in. But just talk about what he meant to Lanier, to Alabama State, to the entire city of Montgomery, and to you.
He meant everything. I mean, to see this guy as a 10th grader, trying to play baseball at Lanier. He came out there 10th grade year trying to take my spot, bragging about his arm strength. And it was amazing. I will say that. So he came out there one day for tryouts, and he was on shortstop saying, "I'm going to take your spot." I'm like, man, well, yeah, whatever. So I saw him throw one ball. I was like, oh, man, he may be for real with this. But to looking for me, the football coach, Coach Montgomery, came and got him from out there and said, no, you're playing football full time. And from that day on, he never came back and played baseball. But to see him play high school football at an amazing level, at a high level, those 3 years was just great to see. He and Kildred. And I'll say this. when they came back to ASU in 03, I'm sorry, it was 03, yes. That galvanized the ASU fan base to have two hometown guys come back and play for ASU. And that was an amazing 3-year run those guys had at ASU playing football for us. And I want to add one point, too. The 05 team, they really I can't say the word, upset me, because that team had the talent to repeat as champions, and they did not. We started out, I want to say, 5-1, and went to Birmingham playing A&M, lost I think a 16-point lead. And from that time, it just went all downhill. And to this day, I still talk about that with Keldrick and Lee Carter about how they really ruined my 05 season that year. I mean, so
let's talk about Brandon Dean a little bit. NBA. That's the look I was waiting on. Go ahead. I will let you go ahead and do it. I'm not even going to ask the question. I didn't have to.
It does not count. It is a Mickey Mouse ring. It does not count. That's all I got to say.
So basically, if anybody else would have won but LeBron and the Lakers, would you have been okay?
Probably not, except Golden State would have counted. But anybody else, it does not count. And he's still second best of all time. And that can never be changed. Let's get that straight now. Amazing guy, amazing talent on and off the court, but he's still second best.
I will say it like this, and I will use our head coach's analogy. So Mo Williams gets on the line and says, the way I look at it with LeBron and Michael Jordan, you can close your eyes and you can play what they would call musical chairs and have the guys just walk around while your eyes are closed. And he said, music stops, just point with your eyes closed, open your eyes. And he goes, I'm just going to be honest with you. You can't be wrong with either one of them you fit.
You can't be wrong.
That's what. See, this
you can't be.
I cannot wait till I can get you two together and have this.
You can be wrong.
We might have to go Instagram live with you and Mo and let y'all have this debate.
I mean, I'm fine.
And just so everybody knows, the reason I started with NBA, just go find Brandon on social media. It is the best thing ever.
I've toned down in the last.
Well, no, it's still the best thing ever. I mean, it was the best thing ever then. It's still, but you have toned down. I will give you credit.
Yeah. What's the name got hurt, so I can't really talk that much trash.
The bubble made you kind of tone it down a little bit. Just be honest.
Yeah, and Steph Curry being hurt too, so I just couldn't have anything to fight with.
So for those of you that don't know by now, Brandon is a Warriors fan. So he's waiting on Giannis to say, I'm going to the Warriors, or you really can't have anybody. And I hate to do this to you, Brandon. You really can't have anybody that's a free agent this year go to the Warriors and say, I'm going to the Warriors because they beat me this year. Because they only, won 15 games?
15 or 14. Everybody got hurt, though. I mean, so you can't. It's a lost year. The year doesn't count anyway, so, I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, so.
Major League Baseball. All right. Braves 1 game away, Tampa Bay 1 game away. Let's just say it's those two teams in the series. You gotta raise organization here, and you got the Braves 2 hours away. What you think?
Based off the recent trends, I'm going to have to say Atlanta, because they've had some on-time pitching, some clutch at-bats by their hitters too. The Rays, outside of that rookie guy, I want to say his name is Ozarino or somebody like that, they're not that consistent hitting the ball. So I would have to say the Braves. But again, I'll just say the Braves.
So by the time this happens, what happens if we just talk about the Braves and the Rays and the Dodgers and Astros come back? And
I was going to say that, but I want to jinx myself, so I'll just say.
Oh, I'll say it. I don't care. It doesn't matter.
I'll say
at the end of the day, hey, this is going to be one of those two that is going to get an asterisk. So I think we're good.
No, I'm just going to count.
Oh, see, this.
NBA doesn't count at all. That's
NBA doesn't even get an asterisk. NBA just doesn't count.
It's asterisk. I mean, it still doesn't count.
Okay.
It's 4 *6 for LeBron and 6-0 for Jordan. I mean, so that's how it is.
Okay, so here's a serious question for you. I know you watch it on a regular basis, but can you listen to a golf tournament on radio?
No. I cannot listen to it on the radio.
I was just asking. I had to ask. No. I see you watch it.
Yeah,
so
I can't do that.
Let me just tell you about the hobby, and then we'll just call it a hobby that Brandon has picked up. If Brandon Dean ever asks you to play golf with him, and this is just rumors, I haven't seen this firsthand, don't go because you're not going to win.
That's halfway true. I mean, that's halfway true.
I'm just getting it out there. I'm just trying to help the folks so they don't go get the feelings hurt when they go play golf with you.
Who told you that?
I can't tell you that.
Okay.
I
haven't played in a month now, so I have been trying to scale back.
That's for off the record. I can't say that publicly on the podcast because I don't want to disparage that person on.
Okay.
Because I don't want them to think that they can't go play golf with you and then lose again. So.
Okay. Well, I'll say this. Had I known early about golf, I would have played when I was a child because I am hooked on it now. But I haven't played in a month now, so I kind of scaled back.
Yeah. What? How many days were you going? 3-4 days a week?
No. Just one.
Just trying. I was trying to help you out a little bit.
Only on Saturday. That would get me in trouble here today.
Yeah, I might get you in trouble there. You can take vacation days.
Only one day a week, Saturday.
Okay, just checking. So I got to get this in. So we talked about Coach Watkins, and this one's going to hate me because I'm going to make sure I send him this clip. But as much grief as Coach Briggs gives me, I'm just going to say Alvin gives me every time we see each other. This is a great time to talk about Coach Briggs a little bit. Just to.
What if I don't want to?
That's all I want to do. That wins the conversation.
Yeah, I don't want to. Why?
I brought his name up. That should suffice.
We could break it back down then because we're done with that conversation.
Do I need to edit that part out? Is that what you're telling me?
No, you leave it in here.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
But no. He's a great guy, a big brother, a good friend of mine, and I'll just leave it at that.
I had to do it because as much grief as he gives,
I know.
It's one of those that when you have a chance, you have to take it.
That's my bald-headed brother, as we always say.
But Brandon, seriously, on a serious note, from somebody who's at Alabama State and has seen Alabama State from afar, but before I walked in the door as a guy now that has been there, 4 years, believe it or not, it's been that long. Loved every day of it. I will say, to see what you have done and to see how you continue to rep Alabama State on a daily basis. As much grief as I give you about stuff, it is great to see what you continue to do for the university and for what the university has done for you as well.
I appreciate it, man. And again, ASU has been good to me, so it's only right that I give back to it every day I can. So it's just a great place to be. And I want to end by saying this, if I can. You know about this, so is Terrence too. Terrence, insider. Jen, I love you, girl.
I'm gonna leave it at that because that will be a clip that we will just go ahead and we will make sure we clip that and we will make sure we send that so she can have that for as long as she wants.
Yeah, that was a classic moment between us, everybody.
That was probably the best insider moment that I have ever been a part of.
Yes.
And we still talk about it to this day.
When you know, you know.
When you know, you know. And Brandon, that is a great segue. Go ahead and again, thank you for joining us. And as always, continue to be you, continue to do what you do. And we look forward to following you and staying up to date with what you're doing.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you.
Anytime, folks. That's Brandon Dean, former baseball player here at Alabama State. Works now at the Alabama High School Athletic Association. I'm not even going to try to say his title because I'm probably going to mess it up, but we'll just leave it at that because there's so many assistant, associate, and everything else. I don't want to get the wrong one.
I'm an assistant. That's all. I assist.
So there you go. There, I'll let Brandon say it. But again, for Brandon Dean, this is Travis Strong saying thank you for listening to another edition of Hornet Nation Unfiltered. We'll be back next week. The fall break is now over for us at Alabama State as we gear up and we continue to bring you news and stories from around Alabama State University, past and present. This is Travis Strong saying thanks again for listening. Hornet Nation Unfiltered. Until next time. You've been listening to Hornet Nation Unfiltered. We'll be back next week with another special guest from Alabama State's past. Until next time.